welcome back to the Schmitter Center Acre Woods. So today, gonna get the water from the hydrant that we temporarily set, start putting in a water line, get it most of the way up the hill, and so have the backhoe here, trencher, spool trailer, and gonna get all that put up. So here we're starting at the meter, trying to get this line exposed and just kind of get it cut off so we can transition from the 3/4 inch line that they have coming out of the meter to a 2-inch line. So we have a little bit of restriction right here, but we want to have plenty of capacity going up the hill for the house and everything. So so get this dug up, get it spotted here pretty quickly just so that we don't disturb it. And then from there we can kind of then get set our depth and get the trencher in the ground to get this first little leg put in to the culvert that we have that goes under the drive. So once we have it spotted, he's more comfortable getting back in there and using the machine just so we can actually physically see it. So just kind of keep chipping in some of this and get it exposed so we can then get that hydrant pulled out. Right now we've been without rain for about a month and a half, maybe 2, so the ground's getting close to concrete. So even though we dug this up less than a year ago, didn't seem very ditchy, just the ground's very hard right now. Once we get close to that hydrant though, we did put pea gravel around it, just so we could, so that whenever the hydrant drains, that water has some place to go. So we always put a little bit of pea gravel down so that it doesn't just clog up the drain in the bottom of the hydrant and lets that drain into kind of a small basin of pea gravel. And here I really wanted to dig this out and find, I couldn't remember how far away our fitting was, so I wanted to make sure that he didn't snag that with the backhoe when he was digging that out. So just set it aside, he kind of gets dug out a little bit more and kind of gets the spot cleaned out so that he can get the trencher back in there and start doing this part. So obviously with the time lapse makes it look pretty quick, but it is a pretty mean machine and gets through this pretty quickly. This stuff is very powdery, so not a whole lot, a couple of roots and things like that, but overall it was pretty smooth sailing and wasn't too difficult. So basically we come up and we get to the culvert, so we'll have to dig under that. So we get dug under, get trenched out just a little bit further, and then you'll see we have to get stuff unspooled and get it under the culvert. This is one we have that connects, that goes under this drive so that the water from uphill can continue out to the little creek. Got trenched up to this point, have our line here that helps drain this. So he's going to trench out a little bit more, and we'll get the spool trailer on the otter over here and get everything under there and then get it pulled out back to the meter. So we'll have to get all this pulled out, do some fusing up there to get everything connected there, and then he'll be able to continue trenching, and then we'll cross the road and then set our pit and everything up there. here we're doing some of the fusing. So auto works out very well for this. So we have the spool trailer there that Dad made to get the poly unspooled. We have a 500-foot roll of that, and everything fits nicely in the back. So we have the iron, the grinder, and then obviously all that needs to be powered. So I have the generator there. So I have a little bit more in-depth videos of this, kind of working at the camp. So some of the first videos we did had to do with working at the camp and getting water installed there. So I did a little bit more in-depth of fusion and kind of how that works and everything. So in essence, you clean the pipe, get it squared up, and then you put an iron in there, heats it up, and then you smash it together. So you don't have any fittings or pieces to come apart. It's as strong there, kind of like a weld, as any other spot in the pipe. Any leaks we've had with this pipe has been, whenever a forklift took it off the truck and gouged the pipe or something like that. It's never been from really a defect of this. As long as everything's clean, your iron's clean and all that, then you don't have any issues with these. So it takes a little bit more time. Obviously than just putting it together, but like here we'll have a 500-foot run once we get the ends done that will have no joints in it, and will be nice. You'll see on top there we also have some orange, so we have the duct there. It's actually what the phone company uses. So fiber is available here at the 100 acres. They put it in this past summer. Obviously not going to run that right now without a house or anything. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I want to put the provisions in. So what they actually do with the fibers, they blow a line through, and that they can then pull the fiber back with. So this is a 500-foot run for that, and we want to bury it. Like normally they would bury it, and they'd put it maybe 6 inches deep with a little a plow, but like in this area right here, we have the culvert that needed to go under, and then right where the trench is sitting in particular, that's going to be the wood yard where we're going to be driving the 62 across and bigger equipment and things like that. So with it only being 6 inches deep, from what they would do, the likelihood of, having that be hurt is higher. So we wanted to put it in deeper, so we go ahead and put in a duct since we were able to get some of that to put it in. So here, kind of getting everything ready to pull that out. I think my camera dies before you see us pull everything out, but basically it's just the two of us pulling that, getting it under the culvert, and then once we have it pulled all the way back to the meter, we then just drive forward and kind of get it unspooled approximately where we want it to go. So we want to go in between these two trees, and that one's just in the way. So we go ahead and get it cut out, and then can continue unspooling this. So we knew the duct was going to get us to about right there. That was our plan. Right here is going to be where we put in our T. So I guess... Okay, so we got both rolled out to basically the point where we're going to turn, put in a T, and go toward the picnic shelter and the eventual house. He's going to continue trenching. I'm going to work on getting the gravel scooted back so that we save as much gravel as possible. So I'm going to work on that next. And so he'll trench right up through, and then basically turn, put the boom in, and go out that direction, and then dig a little hole where you can put in the T and a valve for the 1 inch that will be pointed. So our flag there be pointed up that direction, so we'll be able to go across the front of the pole barn house and go in. Just with how that works out, it ended up being a little bit different direction. It ended up pointing kind of back toward the drive, and then we can loop it around. But either way, it works out fairly well. So try to get as much of this scooped out, so whenever the power company put the stone in, they just put it right on top of the dirt, so there's no fabric or anything underneath of it. So just try to get as much scooped out as possible, and I still don't get through all the layers, but I get the majority of it saved to where we can, just go back over it. So there's a little bit more footage of him getting this trenched in. So here you can see we have the spool set up, so we are putting wire in with this so we can locate it at a later date. So he has that included on the trencher, and we do have the hoops on here to where we could have the line being fed in as it goes. But since we have like the two lines and they're kind of crisscrossed at one point, we go ahead and just leave it so we can throw the water line in initially, and then cover it a little bit and then put the duct in. So you can kind of see that here. Other piece of that is he is going to stop there to stop the hill, so we'd have to undo it, get it all out of the hoops, and then go again. And since this is a short enough run, didn't worry about it. So have that down there in the trench. We went about 4 feet deep, so we could cover and then still have plenty of coverage for the duct. So he's gotten trenched up and started out toward the pond. So get this dug out, get the trench opened up both directions here, and kind of get a big enough hole opened up to where he's got enough room to get the fusion stuff down there to fuse his T on. And he already has the valve and everything, or the pieces for the valve fused up, or can do that not in the hole. So have the wire, so we just bring both ends of the wire up here, or I guess we have a continuous loop, but we just pull it up here, so we make sure to have kind of a spot. And then I think he's already gotten trenched out almost to where we want the stuff to be at the picnic shelter, and we can get this finalized.
Trenched up to our location here. Got trenched out that way to the picnic shelter. We ended up kind of going further that direction just to stay away from anything that maybe potentially like where the house is, just so we don't have to relocate stuff in the future. So have that all pulled out. So I need to do some fusions here to put in a T and get all that. So we'll have the T, and then we'll go ahead and just put the valve with the 1-inch valve stick in this direction, so we can then run it along the front of the house, pole barn house, at a later date. And then I have the phone duct in, almost past the drive, so I need to kick a little bit more dirt in on the pipe here, just to give it a little bit of separation, and then finish putting that in, and then just leave it sticking up here. So that we can then just kind of bury it sticking up where we can get back to it at a later date, and be able to get the fiber, which is the main idea for that, all the way from up there to here. And we talked about before burying this part of it to get some wire, some 10-3 wire that we can direct bury and just put it in this hole sticking up, and then have it over there. Our ped for electric will be somewhere in this vicinity, so we'd be able to hook it up here, and then while we have this hole open, get power out to the picnic shelter, because we'll want that sooner than we have like the house and stuff done. So kind of planning ahead, maybe do that, so we'll have to run and get some wire if we go that route.
Here's a little bit closer look at the iron piece. So basically, you heat it up enough, and there's times and everything, but you just kind of do it by eye. And you can see kind of the lips and how it then smashes that all together. So that's the T, 1-inch stub, and then a 2-inch T that will connect to everything down in the hole. So you do have to then get all this down there in the hole to get it all connected, but you basically have seamless pipe then. There's just a little bit of drone footage to put in here. So basically, he's gotten, I just did that fusion, so that's cooling. So that is the one thing, you do have time associated with that. So you have to heat it up and then let it cool before you can pull on it. So there are some drawbacks time-wise. But here he's putting a little bit of dirt on, just trying to get that separation so we can then get the duct in up to this point. And just kind of a quick look at everything from above. Whenever I'm in closer quarters like this, I'm not very fast at flying, so I went ahead and sped this video up for you guys just so it wasn't quite so long. But just kind of showing pipe down in the hole, and then kind of the path that we took here to the woods, and give you kind of a better or different perspective of it. Here's a look at what I was talking about as far as having to get everything down in the hole. So have to get that down there, and you have to kind of plan a little bit depending on which pieces move and which don't. And since everything's curled up in with this type of 2-inch pipe, you do have to then kind of work some of the bends out of it to get everything in the jaws here of the fusion machine. But the 2-inch pipe's pretty easy to work with. You can kind of get it bolted around. So we just got it out to here. So basically we only had the 100 feet or the 500 feet of 2-inch pipe, so that got us about another 100 feet past that, and then we just switched to switch the 1-inch to get to this hydrant. So the 2-inch will come to somewhere about, if I remember correctly, somewhere about in here, and then from here on it's the 1-inch, and that gets us past where the house will be. So the house will be connected to the 2-inch pipe and be fed from that, and then about where the trencher's at is where the yard hydrant will go. So need to work on getting some of the tree stuff cut down there that's grown back on the edge, but with the picnic shelter there, it'd be really nice to kind of have that look out over the pond. Right now it's a little dirty, but not too bad. It's starting to cool off at that time, so some of the algae and stuff has started to kind of disappear, and we've had some wind, which really helps kind of push stuff away as well. So really looking forward to kind of getting that built. So after this project, we end up with more time that we can start milling and be able to work on that picnic shelter. So stay tuned if you're interested in seeing the milling of that, but then also the construction of the picnic shelter. So one thing we did have that we found here at the 100 acres was while trenching, came across about a 1-inch diameter cable that was just sitting on the ground or just buried under the ground. So you can kind of see a piece of it there. So basically it stopped the trencher dead. It didn't hurt anything, luckily, but it was about a 30-foot piece of it that was just there. So we've kind of found these different times. Okay, so fast forwarded here, kind of got late and didn't get as much footage as I wanted to. So had a little bit of a gap here, but we got everything put in, and we're working the next day to kind of get things finalized. So we went out, we got wire, so we have this little spool that we made just to be able to spool out that wire. So we get it drug out and kind of again do separation on this part too. We bought direct bury so we could just put it right in the ground, and it's just connected to the phone pole that we're had sitting around, just something to screw it to. Initially we're going to talk about putting that in the ground to kind of have a ped to put stuff on. Ended up having to go get a fitting for the yard hydrant, so bought some 4x4s that worked out better anyway. next piece of this is we have a valve right here, so that's exactly where the 2-inch got us to. So basically just take a piece of pipe, cut some U's in the bottom so it'll slide over the water line, and then just kind of fill in around that so that it stays. Ended up having to chip out a little bit, and it ends up being a little bit of an angle with the poly. Depending on where exactly it lays in the hole, it may kind of twist around a little bit. So instead of, you know, having the pipe directly straight up and down and not being able to get on the valve, we go ahead and tilt it a little bit just to make it easier. And then just buy a screw-on clean out cap for that. So get this put in and go get the water turned on, and instantly see that there's water down in the bottom of the hole, and start looking at it, and there's basically just a pinhole in the bottom of that. So initially we thought that it was just a loose fitting.
We went and put the post in, went to attach it, and noticed there's water in the bottom, so I thought it was just a flare, but it's actually a hole in that 90. So it's gonna go get that. We did get our wire in. So we have the wire, have our valve box in down here, so we can get on that valve. We ended up, when we fused this valve, we tried to get everything straight, but it tilted a little bit. So it's at a little bit of an angle. So, and backfill around this by hand just so it stays where it needs to, and then start working on the rest of this. We got the wire in so it can all be backfilled. And then the dirt that was up by the meter had a lot of rock in it, so put fresh dirt in there. But all that rock dirt's still up there, so I'm going to put it on the other side of the drive over there just as fill.
So I start with that, so I don't show all of it, but just do a quick kind of show. We had used to, obviously about where we put the meters, where the drive used to be, or an entrance used to be. So there's a lot of rock in this, and just stuff we didn't want to put right on top of the water line. So I bought fresh dirt in from the hill that we've been eating away, and this, I mean, there's some dirt, a lot of rock. It's a pretty good mix, so we maybe would have been able to clean it for some of the rock, but we go ahead and just use it where the drive's kind of going to be anyway, and it'll kind of add to that fill. So I have to do this for a little bit, and then once I get done moving all of this, I can work on getting the other part backfilled. And I tried to take as much rock out of here as possible, just so we could put a little bit of fresh dirt in and not have to worry about rock whenever I mow. So here I just double check, make sure the wire's in and flat and everything's down before I start backfilling. So I thought I was going to be able to use the front end loader more. It's one of those that, again, it being so wide and not having a whole lot of room makes it difficult. So I ended up just kind of getting it covered and then spinning around and using the backhoe to swing dirt in on all of this. So I just go part way up the hill to about where that valve is, and then leave the rest of it for right now until we get the hydrant finalized, just so if we need to pull up any or manipulate anything, then we can. So that is one nice thing. The swing on the 62 is stronger than like a mini, so swinging that dirt in is not too bad. So here, see, we got the 4x4 in, everything buried again, kind of just with the constraint of doing everything, didn't have a whole lot, but we have that valve in, got that box in, and you can see we have the duct tape to that, so we can get to it in the future, and then just the electrical there. We get it all stuffed in that box and covered. So then hopping back over here, we got the hydrant fixed, got it turned on, getting the box mounted to this, so just have a weather tight box that we bring up, and a little piece of conduit to put in, get the wire stuffed in, and then just leave that long and get it in the box. So we know eventually we'll want power out here for grills or a fan or lights and all that kind of stuff. So that's why we went ahead and did this, is since we had the hole open, we could get that accomplished. So again, put a little bit of pea gravel down there just so that there's a small basin for the hydrant to drain to. So that's part of the frost-free part of that, is it will drain so that it won't freeze and break. So have that all done, so go ahead and get this little bit backfilled, and getting close to calling it a day, and kind of getting this job accomplished. Took it a full weekend to do, but it was one of those things that was good to have gotten done. I realized I'd never actually recorded like loading this machine, I don't think, so I just did a quick little video here at the end to wrap her up. Typically turn on the four-wheel drive, put it in low, so medium and then low on the hydrostat, and just drive it up. And then we tried to center the wheels kind of over the rear wheels, over the center of the axle. And it's helpful having two people because Dad can lower the trailer as I stay in there. So once it's down, he goes over and then just kind of directs to see if I need to move forward or backward. And then we set the backhoe down on the deck, and then I just lift this up just so we can walk under it whenever I attach the chains. So normally if we are loading and unloading the same day, all the chains are where they need to be. But so in the rear have 2 points on the back that it connect to, and then we do bind down the backhoe bucket, so we use a chain for that. So we have 3 chains across the back, and then these 2. So we have D hooks on the front that go to part of the non-moving section of the trailer, so we try to go to that just so it's back to that point. And then that front brush guard down at the bottom's solid enough that we're able to go around that. And then gave up on the old style binders that you kind of flip over. Went to these ratchet style years ago just because they're a lot easier and not near as hazardous as those old ones where you'd have to have a breaker bar and hope that you got it tight enough. And if the chain slipped at all, you'd have to do it all over again. So went to this style, makes it a whole lot easier. And then just get these tight, and then we set the bucket on top of this, which then if there was any slack, it takes it out of having that bucket sitting on top of this. There's one thing with this style, if you have a long run like I do on the downhill side, it wants to kind of cross over itself, or twist up the chain. So we do try to keep a bar in the truck to where you can stick that in, and it'll hold that still while you then ratchet, just so you don't have a twisted up chain. So that wraps up getting the water installed here at the 100 acres. So we'll have a little bit more in the future of getting everything finalized, but that gets the main project done. So thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.